And we're live.
Are we good?
We're good.
All right. Let's bring Improvement Service Committee to order. Let it be recorded that Johnson, Nicholson, Burnett, Warrior are present. Approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Worry, second by Johnson. Under discussion. Just 1 second here. Suppose we can handle that. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Approval of minutes
So moved.
by Johnson, second by Burnett. Under discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Regular order of business. Consideration of possible action by Shannon Jansen, 819 Roy Avenue, for up to 25 total requests for overnight parking. Steve?
Are you Ms. Jansen?
Nope.
Okay. All right, well, I did have a conversation with Ms. Jansen. Roy, this particular block of Roy, very narrow, and unlike a lot of the other houses on the block, Ms. Jansen's house, the garage is parallel with the house, it's not set behind it, so as a result, she has a very short driveway. Does have instances throughout the course of the year where family is visiting or she has grown children coming home, probably from college or something along that line. But did have a conversation with her. What we did originally was try to determine if there were alternate arrangements that could be made. So taking a look at aerial photographs in our GIS system, were there parking lots in the near proximity to her house where we could effectuate conversations between her and the parking lot owner to get her off street. As it turns out, just where she's located, there really are no valid alternatives to her. She would be walking 4 blocks or so, which we didn't think was what was a valid solution, so we did suggest that she come forward and request the additional on-street exemptions. I did tell her that historically, they have been a lower number than this, so I wouldn't be a bit surprised if 25 was not granted, but she decided she wanted to try for the 25 and see how things would go.
Okay, does anybody know her? Shannon, on the committee? Who represents Roy?
That's Randy.
What do you want to do?
Move to approve. Second.
Second? Okay, there's a second. Johnson made a motion to approve, second by Burnett. Under discussion. Hear none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. 2, consideration of possible action on a request by Alderman Johnson to address chronic flooding and drainage concerns on Antoinette Street. Johnson?
Yeah, just looking for an update on this one. I think we've talked about it a few times, some of the challenges that area has. And I guess I've just heard maybe some conflicting responses from different staff about whether or not this new lift station is actually going to resolve that. So, update.
We don't know whether the new lift, let me back up a little bit, because new lift station is kind of nebulous. We have one lift station that's being installed right now down at Shipyard.
Right, I'm referring to the one that's supposed to go down by, is it off of Howard?
We do have a project in the capital program we're going to be talking about tonight that will put a lift station in down there at Antoinette.
So will that actually help Antoinette? Because my understanding is that Antoinette is in a different drain basin and that lift station would not help.
What we're doing, there's 2 projects that you had discussed that you had approved previously. 108, 110, those 2 basins are tied together, that's the Shipyard project. 106 is up at Howard and Pearl by the school district.
Right.
Neither of those will impact, they're both in different drainage districts than Antoinette. Antoinette runs up to, I don't know the number, but I'm trying to think of the street.
Yeah, we're just calling it a station.
No, it goes up to, and I always get them mixed up.
That's a short street, isn't it?
No, the street, the one that comes down dead ends in parking lot F, behind Old Fort Square, and then shoots out. Hubbard, thank you. I always get Howard and Hubbard mixed up, okay? that pipe comes right down Hubbard and shoots out, discharges into the river. We're putting a flap gate and a pump directly in that line,
So when is that expected to happen?
summer 2020.
But that will only prevent water from backing up. Is that correct?
No. The problem, we could put a flap gate in alone, and flap gate is a lot like the check valve on your sump pump.
Right.
Allows the water to go one way but not the other. The problem with putting the flap gate in is, as the river level backs up or rises, it creates additional pressure, and then any water falling in the drainage basin itself has to pond up and create flooding in order to overcome the river. So by putting the flap gate and the pump, when the pipe fills up, then the pump will turn on and will push the flap gate open and suck the water onto the lines.
So where's that pump
It's
going to
gonna
be
be on the
located?
Howard Street line, or Hubbard Street line, I'm not sure exactly where. I believe it's closer down to Museum Place.
Okay, because my biggest concern, of course, is and I know that because of the high, water levels, this problem's become even worse this last year. But my biggest concern is that we've got a lot of residents over there, when that street floods, they're underwater for days. And it's happening a lot.
The reason for that, again, we go back to vertical elevations on our data. So thinking in terms of city data. The Fox River has been running at roughly elevation 101 to 101.5, which is very high historically. The intersection of Antoinette and Blesh, the top of the manhole, the surface of the street, is at 99.7. So when the river is higher than 99.7, the water is flowing backwards, coming out of the inlets, and that's why the streets are staying submerged. The
Right.
streets are literally constructed below the water level of the river at this time.
So this particular pump that you're talking about is part of the capital plan, so it's contingent on us approving that capital plan?
Correct.
Okay, so let's make the assumption for a minute that we do approve that capital plan. That work still wouldn't be scheduled until summer. So when I'm looking at spring or any time before that, is there anything that we can do for temporary remediation of flooding when it does occur over there? Can we
At this-
manually pump it?
At this point, there's not, because what we'd be doing is recirculating. You'd be pumping the water out, and the river water
Because
would
it
be
goes right
flowing
back
as
into the
fast
same
as you
drain?
want.
Is that why?
Yeah,
So can we put that flap in sooner?
we can't. It would be, the only way to do it is you have to get underwater in the river.
And there's not another drain pipe that we can stuff that water down?
No, because the pipe, the diameter of the pipe is so big, and the manhole covers are only 24 inch.
Okay. And forgive me for not being an expert on
No,
this, but
that's why
even
we're
like,
explaining it.
can we even suck it out and put it into a dump truck? I don't know.
Well, again,
And I'm
until
being
we-
a little bit facetious, but
Until we can get the flap gate installed, that's the key. We need to get the flap gate installed to stop the river water from coming backwards. Otherwise, as fast as
just
you pump, the river
recirculates.
just leaks back in.
all right. Okay, so it's in the capital improvement plan.
Yes, sir.
Fellow alders, when that comes up, we really got to do something about this street. I mean, this is all the time, not just occasionally.
Kind of like Maine and Mason?
More than Maine and Mason.
I don't.
But that's a big problem too.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yep, you're right. All right. So, anything else, Johnson?
No,
All right, motion to receive and place on file by. So moved. By Worry, second by
I'll second.
Burnett, under discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. Moving forward. Okay, number 3, want to hold for the next meeting, please. Motion to hold number 3 by Worry, second by Burnett, under discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays, motion carried. For consideration of possible action on request by Alderman Stoyer to study and report out the feasibility of utilizing an even odd residential address overnight parking scenario as is done in Milwaukee in order to relieve the parking problems at residences with limited parking spaces with DPW staff, creating draft ordinances that allow even odd overnight on parking during summer months, year-round, and present at the January 8th, 2020 INS. Stoyer? Grenier? Someone?
Do you want, did you guys want to start?
Well, I can give a brief, sure.
Why don't you do that?
In the packet, we provided a copy of the existing municipal ordinance 29.203 sub 12, night parking. Then following that, we provided some draft language for consideration to allow modifications to that section of the ordinance, assuming that even odd parking would be during the summer only. Page 3 of 5 shows draft language to modify the same section of the code to allow even odd parking year-round. The last two pages, page 4 and page 5 of 5 of the packet attachment, show the changes that would be necessary to section 29.203 of Green Bay Municipal Code, Class B parking violations, and the yellow highlighted text shows what we would change if this proposal were to go through. So we did prepare the draft language that was requested.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee. We've been talking about this for a little while, so I appreciate Director Greer and Chris for putting this together. I appreciate that.
Mr. Purlett.
Oh, Mr. Perla, thank you. So there's a few things here. I think, initially, I was looking at, I looked at other communities that have this, and most of them, it's during the warm weather months generally. So the November to April, that's not as pressing to me as it should be, but I think that what they have for assuming the even odd parking allowance summer only might be something to look at. And I just basically got this information a couple days ago, so I haven't really had a chance to disseminate it. To me, it's not time sensitive as much. We have winter going on, we have the campaign going on, there's a number of things going on. So it's not overly time sensitive, but I still think that it's something that we should look at. I did look at the map. My printer's not as good as some, but just looking at the map of all the different parking requests, does that tie in somewhat with this sheet here?
Yes.
Okay, so there's quite a few requests, and like I said, it's generally between 41 and Bader Street, I guess, and you said there's still some outside of that. I guess my question would be, you look at the various incidents where you can have 6 two-week events or 5 two-week events, different things like that. That covers quite a few events, but I'm saying there are certain homes that it's above and beyond that. So I don't have a number on that, what that would be, but I still think it's something to be looked at. We probably have 6 of the aldermanic districts that really have pressures with this, and Alder Johnson, I'm sure you have some of that. I've had a number of requests. One of my citizens came down and she would like to speak as well. So I appreciate the work that you did to put this together, because that was my request, to get some kind of an ordinance in place. And like I said, over time we've looked, I've looked at, and you've looked at other communities as well, what they've done. And I think it's important to try to come up with something that might be amenable, something that could work out, for the city. I could let my citizens speak as well, but I think right now I just would like to, it's not time sensitive. We don't have to.
You want us to hold then?
I'd like the committee to discuss it first. I'm still tentatively thinking of holding it, but I would like the committee just to, if you've had a chance to look at this and what your thoughts are, I'd appreciate that first before I do that.
Okay. You want us to open up the floor?
If I could ask that.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Alder Steuer, I know one of the things that you talked about at the previous meeting was the possibility of a permitted system. I know that I did not include that in my motion, but
Right.
is that still something that's of interest to you? Because that's not in this proposal, and so,
Well, this was the ordinance. This is basically what was requested for the last meeting.
Right.
We
So you
haven't
need
re-
more time to explore the permit
The
option?
permit, yes, and I agree in a sense, I mean, when you brought it forward that, you know, do we need another permit? Do we need another fee in the city? And I guess my point of contention was that, you know, folks that get tickets, parking tickets, that leave their car out in the street, you get 2 tickets, and that would cover the cost of permits. So, you know, do we have too many permits in this city? Maybe we do, I don't know. But some of the folks that I've spoken to that have this issue said they would not have a problem paying $30 or what have you for a permit. Then again, you know, I know we have to think about the fact that, okay, now if we do this, then you're gonna have to hire possibly more staff, and those are some of the things that I'm not fully aware of yet. I think that would be an issue, you know, if you find out that it's too much that way, that could sway things. But as far as the permit goes, I initially would like to see it, because I'm looking at other means of revenues. But if the pushback is such that it isn't, I'm not gonna overly fight it, but I think initially I would have liked to see a permit system.
Okay, so the other question I have for you is if I'm reading this correctly, and Chris, you can tell me if I'm wrong as I'm looking at this, but I'm seeing this as only a summer lift on the ban, so the winter one, based on what you supply, is still, we still have a winter ban, or am I misreading
We
this?
were asked
We
to,
provided draft
Well-
language both ways.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
So in
there's several
the
pages.
attachment, what's listed as page 2 of 5 is the summer-only allowance.
Okay,
Page 3 of 5 would be a year-round allowance.
oh, that's what the difference is on those.
Yes, sir.
two.
But the
Okay,
summer only is from what to what? Because it says, here you have November 1st to April 1st, and maybe I'm confused on page 2, the way you worded that.
Correct.
there's still-
You would not be allowed to park on street between November and April,
So
between
it's-
April 1st and November.
It's understood that it's.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm curious, Alder, from your perspective, if we do a summer only,
Well, I mean.
what problem are we solving?
That is a good point, because I think,
Well, it's just a question, it's not a point.
well, no, not a point, but it takes care of some of the problem, but not all of it. You know, wintertime is a different animal, you know, and I think that's something that I am not fully prepared to fight that one yet, okay, because of snow emergencies and safety and all that other stuff. You know, it's something, it's not everything. And a lot of the communities that I've studied have something like this. So that's how I answered that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Entertain a motion to open up the floor.
So to open the floor for interested parties?
second.
By Johnson, second by Burnett. Under discussion here, none, all in favor. Nays, motion carried. Okay, now, floor is now open. Just raise your hand. State your name and address for the record, please.
Leanne Kramer, 702 Neville Avenue. Looking at, just taking that brief look at the pamphlet that they put together, I guess right now it's like, at least, I guess if we went with the summer only, at least it's a step in the right direction. I'd like a year-round thing. It's not, because it's not gonna solve problems with people who, like the lady that didn't show up but lives on Roy and has limited parking space. You know, that wouldn't solve her problem, and it wouldn't solve my problem. You know, recently I had some children that moved out and then they came back, and so then, you know, you're still back at that square. And like I said in previous meetings, thank goodness I have a neighbor a couple doors down that's willing to allow us to park cars in his driveway. You know, but some people don't have that luxury, and so I guess we need to come up with a solution somehow. And like I've been telling other people, you know, when you're looking at houses to buy a house, do you really look at your house and your driveway and go, oh yeah, when the kids get to be driving age and they all want their cars, we're gonna have enough room to park? You know, that's not something that you're thinking about when you buy a house. And I guess it makes it you feel like you're fighting City Hall and everything else, and you're paying your property taxes, and you're trying to be a good resident of, in your own neighborhood and of the city, and you just, sometimes you feel like you're getting beat. And sometimes you just want to be able to park your car and have how many cars that you need to have in order for everybody to survive in this world as we stand today. Because most of the houses in like near West Side, they were made in in the 1940s, 50s, earlier. One vehicle families at that time. Unfortunately, there's not the room to expand. I wish there was, but, so thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience?
Motion to close the floor?
Motion to close the floor by Johnson, second by Worry. Under discussion here, none, all in favor? Motion carried.
Motion to hold?
Motion to hold by Johnson.
Second.
Second by Burnett. Under discussion.
I think it'd be good to get this, Mr. Chairman, out
Go ahead.
to all the different council people. A lot of people are going door to door right now, talking to people. I'm more interested probably, if I were in favor of it, to go year round. Otherwise, it doesn't really solve a whole lot, so that's just my 2 cents.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Steve, you want to vote?
No, just something else, there's been a lot of information presented over the last several meetings on this.
Right.
And one thing that we do want you to keep in consideration as you're taking a look at these potential changes, although we don't go out with the intent of citations are a big part of our revenue. And a change to allowing on-street parking on a year-round basis, we are projecting that will result in a budgetary shortfall of $231,000 a year. And our budget in parking is only about $3.5 million to start with. So that's a pretty significant chunk of change. If we're going to allow the program, we're gonna have to come up with a way to make up that budgetary shortfall as well. So just something to keep in consideration as you're looking at,
Okay.
at potential changes.
All right. All in favor?
One more quick question.
Okay. Go ahead, Johnson.
In unison with that, because I don't think I've seen that in any of the paperwork, but will there be other costs associated with that? For example, street signage that needs updating, things like that?
I don't know necessarily that we would need to update the street signage.
We have,
If we do, it's very limited. We really only have the parking prohibition posted at the entrances to the city.
about 42 locations, major entrances to the city. We have the signs below, welcome to Green Bay, population, actually, what the white and green signs, where it says no parking, all city streets, 3 AM to 5 AM.
Okay, so maybe if there'd be one request as as we do this hold, is I think it's to give certain alders some additional time to research permitting all year, all that stuff. But the other component is maybe to give you guys a little bit of time to think about what other expenses might be involved with a change like this.
And by all means, as you guys are thinking about this and deliberating it, if you've got questions, reach out to us during the week. We're here to get you the information.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, question.
Oh, no, I was wondering if you could open the floor.
Motion to open the floor.
Second?
Motion on the floor by Johnson, second by Worry. Under discussion here, none, all in favor?
Aye.
I guess I just have one, since it's going, being put on hold for more research or whatever. I guess knowing that it's like 231,000 that would be affected in your budget, but how many people actually work that going around, driving around, looking for the people that are parking on the streets?
How many people
If
do
you
have?
take their wages out of it,
The 4 night people, but they do a lot more than, right now, they only enforce 2 hours a night. They do other maintenance work, so. they have
We
other
have
tasks.
4 people working nights in a parking division, but of those 4 people, they only spend 2 hours a night actually doing the night enforcement, because outside of that 3 to 5 AM, you're legal to be on the street.
so it would actually be, well, it's like I guess a wash, or a give and take, because then they're getting additional hours to do other work that wouldn't be able to be done, since they're out there looking for people parking on the streets.
But the work that they're doing is not revenue generating. And parking, that's one of the things a lot of people don't understand about the city. parking is not covered by property taxes. Parking is 100% self-sufficient. So the money we take in from the ramps, the money we take in from rentals in lots, the money we take in from the meters in the downtown area, and the money we take in citations is what funds the parking division. So although our goal is not to cite people, you'll hear Chris talk all the time, we would rather have compliance than citation. That is always our end goal. However, there is the realization, the reality of life, that there are going to be violations, and those violations result in citations. Citations are part of our revenue stream. So if we lose $230,000 in revenue, we need to make that up, because as a parking division, although it's a division of Department of Public Works, I can't go back to the general fund and get that money. So I need to find a way to make that money up.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Motion to close the floor?
Second.
Motion to close floor by Johnson, second by Weary, under discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all in favor on the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Motion carried. Please excuse me, I have to go. Mr. Johnson, you can take over, please.
With Alder Johnson taking over, we are supposed to start a public hearing at 6 o'clock
All right,
for the,
so motion to postpone the meeting, right?
well,
Not postpone,
what I would ask you to do is to, hold the meeting right now. I'm gonna run up to ensure that the PIM is breaking up and anyone who wants to appear at the public hearing is coming down.
In 310,
Yes.
they announced it, reminded everyone in that meeting, which is winding down, that this meeting was started at 6 o'clock in room 207. So everyone there has been alerted.
Okay, because we really do have, statutorily, we've got to start this meeting at the posted time.
Yep, so we'll motion to temporarily recess.
So moved.
Yes.
A motion by Weary, a second by Burnett. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Tim, are you bugging out?
I think starts at 6:30.
Is it up at the wall? Where is it?
Is it tank? Oh, that makes sense. So, yeah, 6:10. To my car, drive, park, walk.
Shuffle up here.
Probably just do that now. Go from the get-go. Where's your meeting? Brian, tank 6:30. Tank who? My old school. Bunch of girls. I'm gonna donate. My kids, they're just, the little kid bus anymore, so I'm gonna load up they got like 5 of those canvas bags.
Are we living in Green Bay when they got
Yeah.
It's at school.
No identity. It's in this school, like 2 or 3.
No one specifically was asking for them.
What time are you gonna take it right now? Oh, you're leaving it? It doesn't make sense. Yeah. So, you want to take it? Yeah. Okay, well. Yeah. It's Chris Chair. All right, so we got this. Jim, before.
I watched my words.
I have to leave too. So Jesse's gonna take over his chair and Mark's gonna sit in. Okay.
And I'm going with them. Okay, Brian, you said.
He doesn't know.
Yep. Jesse's gonna chair you guys.
Jesse's the only one here.
How long does it last?
You can't.
But I'm interested. So I think the big thing, because like I said, talking about violations and some of the folks, so I'm saying it's all about that. Public hearing. Oh, we don't know the issues.
That's not like there's a condition.
Oh,
I think
I'm not. I'm not worried about it. They want the road.
Yeah, sure. Well, there's nothing they have to wait for. Decisions are already been made.
Yeah, right, so you could say, yeah, I know, shipyard is one, I don't know, but there's, I just announced that rock the boat. It's not rock the boat, no, don't get the boat.
It's gonna rock in the right direction.
Unless you pay. Right.
Hey, I told you about my daughter hitting her
Anyone
first
who's here
car.
for
She
the
was
hearing,
flooded and
if you
stuck
could
in
please sign
the
in.
panicking and screaming.
Appreciate that.
Yes, I know about it.
Thanks for City of Market, appreciate it.
All right. Andy, out of the bullpen. I don't want to be Andy.
We're ready to go.
Okay, we are going to start the public hearing. This is the Improvement and Services Committee. There are 3 members out of usual 4-member committee, so we have a quorum. Present are Alder Weary, Alder Mark Stoyer, and Alder Brunette. I'm not typically the chair of the committee, but I will be the absent of the chair and vice chair. So we will begin the public hearing. Anyone who's wanting to speak will be able to address the committee. With that, Steve, will you call the individuals? Do you have the list?
Sure. Just grab some notes here.
Just so everyone knows, we have 2 projects before us. The first is the concrete pavement, which we'll hear, well, I'm sure that the comments will be intermixed. And the other is the water main and/or water services on Hillcrest Drive.
Okay, so we'll start off with the engineer's report. Public hearing on January 29th, 2020, in accordance with state statutes 6.0703. This public hearing is being held to levy assessments for proposed pavement and water improvements, which are included in the 2020 Capital Improvements Program. All projects being considered tonight will be included in contracts administered by the City of Green Bay Department of Public Works Engineering Division. All of the proposed assessments are being levied in accordance with the city's assessment ordinance. During construction, the contractor is required to provide access to businesses at all times and residences as much as practical. When a residential driveway is inaccessible, property owners or tenants can receive permission from the city police department to park on adjoining streets. Problems during construction should be brought to the attention of the Department of Public Works Engineering Division by calling 448-3100. First project tonight is concrete pavement. Gray Street from Mather Street to Belt Avenue is classified as a minor arterial road and bus route in a residential zone area with few commercial properties. The existing concrete is an urban road section in poor condition and is in need of reconstruction. Gray Street will be reconstructed with a concrete pavement with integral curb over a gravel base and a typical clear width of 36 feet. The estimated cost of pavement construction is $870,000. Sanitary sewer, storm sewer, and water rehabilitation and construction will be performed prior to pavement reconstruction. The estimated cost of the sanitary sewer, storm sewer, and water is $520,000, $830,000, and $640,000 respectively. No assessments will be levied for the sanitary sewer, storm sewer, and water improvements on Gray. The second project is water main and water services. Hillcrest Drive from West Mason Street to Renaissance Lane is classified as a local road in a predominantly residentially zoned area. The existing asphalt road is a rural road section in poor condition and is in need of reconstruction. Hillcrest Drive will be reconstructed with an asphalt pavement with a rolled curb and gutter over a gravel base with a typical clear distance of 27 feet. The estimated cost of pavement construction is $870,000. Hillcrest Drive will have a 12-inch diameter water main constructed in the public right-of-way between West Point Road and Renaissance Lane. The estimated cost of water main construction is $160,000. Sanitary sewer and storm sewer construction will be performed prior to pavement reconstruction. The estimated cost of sanitary and storm are $15,000 and $100,000 respectively. No assessments will be levied for the sanitary sewer, storm sewer, and pavement reconstruction. So we now have the ability to hear from folks relative to either of these projects. If you have filled out a slip, we would appreciate you dropping the slip off here. When you come up to the podium, we ask that you give your name and address, and what we'd like to hear is, are you in favor of the project or not, and then any comments you may have in the interest of making sure that, and right now we only have 2 people who want to speak, but generally speaking, we ask folks to limit their comments to 3 to 5 minutes or so. So the first we have is Mr. Diedrich.
Yes.
You can stand right there, Dick, behind the podium, just maybe, but yeah.
Facing this way?
Yeah, face this
Oh,
way.
okay.
Yeah.
You actually want to talk to the committee?
Yeah, you're fine there, yeah. it's-
We love
They can
you.
look through that.
Your full name and address for the record.
Dick Diedrich, 1604 Hillcrest Drive. My concern is about the water. Now, this is something we have to hook up to, even though we have good wells. Now, my sister, when they put the water past her place on Hillcrest, she had this extra lot there, and so they just billed her for the lot where her house was. Now, I'm wondering if, I got the same thing kind of at my place. Is that something I could get by with, or is this quite a chunk of money to bite off? By the time you get through, it's this, and like I said to the wife, I was to the dentist and I got about 13,000 in teeth I gotta get fixed on the top. And this kind of puts a hole to the teeth and more to the ibuprofen bottle, So I'm just wondering if I could get this lot in my house, and the one on the south side. Like I say, my sister, when they put the water past her, she paid for the lot by her house, and the other one, they said if anybody would ever build her, then they'd take care of that. And that's one of my concerns. As far as the road, I really don't have any questions on the road. The water is the main concern.
So you have a lot and a house, two lots on Hillcrest?
Well, it's,
Kind of?
actually, there's a lot. See, when we originally got this, the city said, well, you gotta have an acre lots, an acre or bigger. So I ended up with this big lot, and they all got frontage, every one of them. And so now you take all these lots where there's homes in there. I was back in the King of Arms. They go from 70 to 90 feet, most of them. And so I said, well, I got room there, actually, I can have a 70-foot lot on the south side of my house. So, I could get by with paying for the lot, where my house is. I don't mind that, but, like I say, I got this other one, and then my sister, when they put the water by her place, they said, well, that one they'll leave go, so I don't know, this is something I'm bringing up, because it's quite a chunk of money, when you're on a limited income. The government said, oh, boy, you can get $28 increase on your Social Security. Well, when I got the Social Security, I got $19, not $28. $9 went towards Medicare. So that leaves me $238 a year. The interest on this water bill, $800 some dollars a year, just for the interest. You got 5 years to pay for this, and then I got, my wife, she's on insulin and that it's about $679 a month for her diabetes. So you take that, my taxes, and this water bill, you can't hardly afford to pay all this. It's tough. So I don't know if there's anything that, that could be done, I don't know.
I just had a general question, Steve. If you have a number of property owners along a stretch of road, if you have 4 that say yes and 2 that say no, generally what happens in something like that?
That is what we're dealing with is either a go or no go on the project. That's, at the end of the day,
Right.
that's what we're faced with. In this particular case, and I'm gonna speak very briefly on behalf of water utility, but I see we've got some water utility reps back there, so if I misspeak, I'm definitely gonna ask them to jump in and stop me. My understanding is that the Public Service Commission, which oversees the water utility different than Department of Public Works, PSC obligates water utility to levy the assessments. And when they levy the assessments, they do not have a deferral clause built in. Their assessments have to be paid. either way. So if the project were to move forward, let's assume that for a moment, just so we can have the discussion. If the project were to move forward, water utility needs to gather that revenue from those assessments. If the council were looking to do something to help provide some relief for these folks through a deferral or something like that, then Public Works would have to come out of our funds to pay water utilities assessments, which leaves us with less money to do our projects for the year.
Has that happened often in the past? Or,
No,
okay.
I know that with the subdivision last year, the council did elect to defer the water on the unimproved properties on the west side of Spartan Road, and DPW had to cover those assessments, and we'll be carrying that cost until those properties wind up being developed.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say it's a frequent or a common occurrence, but
No,
it has happened.
Okay.
Mark, do you have any questions for the
No, I don't.
gentleman here?
No, I
So
don't.
I'd like to,
Yeah, that's fine.
would you like to state anything else?
No, I think he's kind of, I kind of answered my question, and maybe we can take it from there and see what happens.
Okay, well, we'll continue taking public comment and we
Okay.
discuss it after the fact, Director Grenier.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker?
Next individual will be Zach Ehlers.
My name is Zach Ehlers. I live at 1433 Hillcrest Drive. I'm not against the road. I just don't think it's been thought through well enough yet. If we're gonna do it, I think we should do it right. There hasn't been a real good answer to the water problem. And they say because the road is protected wetland right up to the road edges, that they can't do anything. And maybe we need to hear from somebody at the DNR who can answer some of our finer tuned questions about the water. They're ditches that have been there forever, before it was wetland. They need to be cleaned out, reset. The culverts which are gonna be put in need to make sure that they flow properly into the plan that they have. I'm just not sure that that's gonna happen, and we're not gonna be back here in 10 years with a brand new road that's been swamped with water, just like this road has been. I also noticed on the designs that I just discovered upstairs that there's a culvert that directs a whole ton of water, and it's been there forever, from south of my property, several of the houses, down the hill, around the turn, under the street, and then through my yard. They don't know that culvert exists, and the new plan has a bunch of water runoffs directing more water into my yard. I think it's a flaw in the design because they didn't know about the culvert already directing all that water into my yard. And I think that needs to be addressed before they go through with these plans. I guess that's...
Okay, are you okay with the questions, Zach?
Mhm.
Are you connected to municipal water now?
I am.
You are, so you have no assessment of water connection to your property? You're
No,
just
I have it
concerned
in the
with
I
road
have it
design.
in my property on the end of the line.
Gotcha.
Pretty much.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the committee? Okay,
Okay.
all right, thank you, Zach.
That's all the slips that I have.
Anyone else want to speak to the committee, public hearing? Dick, we'll ask anyone else, Mr. Lewis, this can come up. Name and address for the record.
Name's Paul Lewis. Address is 3194 Renaissance Lane. We just had a meeting before about the plans and everything. And I agree with the gentleman about the water flow. I don't think it's really thought of. They said that the big final plan is final, but the details of it, it's not, and it really bothers me. We have water. We're at the end of Renaissance and Hillcrest, so we have water. But now the piping and everything else is going through our lawn. We have a berm that parallels with Hillcrest, and they're taking that berm off, and now I'm getting a big ditch, and all the water is now going to flow towards me, and I'm not real confident that it's a thought-out plan. So I got some concerns, and this is the first chance we had to look at the details of the plan. Because right now, before we had a chance to go to this meeting.
Sure. Director Grenier, if you could just explain the process. The committee makes a recommendation, then it goes to the full council, and the plan
Correct.
itself. I mean, I know there's a hearing, a public meeting before
public
this, but just for the
information
sake of the
meeting,
committee, if you could
Well,
explain.
what will happen tonight is the committee will deliberate, and they will either make a decision to go forward with one or both or neither of these projects. And generally speaking, tonight, the action would be to move the project forward and to order the assessments levied. We will then continue and finish off the design work, bid the project, and before the project goes out for construction, we will have to take those bids back, and the committee will make a recommendation to award to a low responsive bidder or not.
Yeah, and then for clarity's sake, this project had been presented 2 years ago.
Correct.
And at that time, permitting and engineer work had been discussed. And for the folks who don't realize it, this very committee has discussed the flooding of that area quite extensively. And we had not done anything with the intent that it would all be corrected here. So whatever water drainage flowage issues that are appearing, we're aware of it as a city and public works, and through this plan, all those things would be corrected.
And the individuals who have spoken tonight have also spoken with our staff at the public information meeting, so we will be reviewing those comments with the designer that we hired to do this plan.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lewis, any other comments? All right.
Could I bother you for your address again, Mr. Lewis?
3194 Renaissance Lane.
Renaissance?
Anyone else like to address the committee first time? And the other project too, again, Gray Street, anyone for that? Mr. Diedrich, if you want to add it.
Well, I was just gonna say the part that Zach was talking about is on West Point Road. Before you get to Hillcrest, that little dip in the road, there's a culvert going across there. And that's what he's saying, all the water comes down, Hillcrest comes down the hill, then crosses the road and goes through his yard.
Yep.
So he's got kind of a flood over there.
Sure.
That's what I just,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Zach?
I guess everything that I've seen, you got the plan to build our new road and then come around the corner on the West Point a little ways there. And then you have the 4-lane section that was done a ways back of West Point up there, the nicer section. You're missing a gap of a couple 100 yards that hasn't been addressed, and that culvert is right in that. It's gonna be a smashed up little piece of road that's forgotten about between a fairly good road and a brand new road. That's just gonna continue to fall apart.
So the culvert is on the piece of West Point that's not being touched by
that
the...
little short
Okay,
section.
It's just past it.
Right, and that's probably why it's not being discussed as part of the project. We only bring, because the project was originally Haven Place and Hillcrest Drive, when we do Hillcrest Drive, we only come back around the corner to what we call the radius returns. And that's, as a policy, that's where our project stops. When we do that section of West Point, that's when those concerns will be taken care of.
Okay, but then you're pretty much doubling me up on water then, because one project isn't working with the other project then? Because the brand new project has another water flume right there shooting all this water, where this one's shooting all this water into my yard.
And
You've
again...
got a line between the two that you're looking at one and not looking at the other.
No, I will admit to you that I don't know the details of this
Yeah.
project, okay? But if you've made those comments to the staff upstairs at the PIM, we're going to be sitting down tomorrow and meeting to talk about what came out of the PIM, so we will take a look at that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I mean, one or the other, I guess, is all I'm...
Well, the last thing in the world we want to do is make things worse for you guys than what you have already. The intent of the project is to correct it and make things better out there,
Mhm.
so.
Thank you.
Sir, I see two hands. If you could come up, you have to identify your name and address for the record, though.
Dale Brown, B-R-A-U-N, 1610 Hillcrest Drive. So Steve, you kind of said your intention is that water is going to improve, like you said. It won't be sitting in the ditch down there, right? So you're aware of it, and Jesse, you said that too, so they're aware. So that will be gone, because I know John was worried about it. And
we had presented some short-term ideas to fix a lot of the flooding, and this project would alleviate a lot of that, so the short-term fixes probably wouldn't have been much of a fix at all. And we had debated this quite a bit, and so the intent was that this project would be done this year, and a lot of those things, it probably wouldn't have made a difference, and that's why we're here. So we all realize the road needs to be done, and the flooding and the water.
Yeah, because the elevation out there, there's no reason to have a water problem. And John and
Just in a
some of
few
the
of those
fellows that have water in
properties.
their basement.
Yeah.
Thank God I don't have that problem. I'm up a little higher.
Yeah,
but
we've been
that's
told-
nice to hear it, because I don't think we heard that in the other meeting, that it was your intention to solve the water problem, and they really never said that. They said their intention was to keep the water elevation right where it is. Well, that's not gonna solve it. That's what I thought. If the water's, at this elevation and it's there when you're done, you're still gonna have the same
No, my
problem.
understanding is a lot of what's going on out there is the ditches have some
Back.
issues, so what we're doing as part of this project is re-ditching, correct, Matt?
Right, a lot of it we are re-ditching. There are some areas to the north of Westway where we are limited by existing wetlands that are out there that will limit us to doing ditching in those areas.
But if the water level elevation's lower by a foot or two, that's how we'll solve
Well,
everything.
again, I wish I could say that I can speak intelligently about the finer details of the project, but
You did kind of say you're dumped in to solve it, so. that's how
yes,
you're-
the intent is to correct things up.
Okay. I was saying, I think it only takes a foot or two, and the water will be gone.
Sir, you had raised your hand. You could-
Yes, my name is Nathan Burton. I'm a member of the church that meets in the building there on Hillcrest, but I don't live on Hillcrest, I don't live in Green Bay. Two things.
It doesn't matter that you don't live in Green Bay, sir.
Understand.
Could we still get your address?
Sure. N5139 Lakeview Road, Bonduel.
Thank you.
And we're a little bit like Dick here in that we have a really good well, perfectly good. On Sundays, we have about 40 people that meet there. Varies up and down. Sometimes we get visitors, especially on Packer Sundays, but other times too. So at the most, I think maybe 50 people on Sunday. On Wednesday nights, we have a Bible study, and it's lasts an hour, so people are in the building a little bit more than an hour. I don't think not that many people use the restrooms in that period of time, so I doubt if we use 100 gallons of water a week. And we have a well that we have no problems with. No one complains about the water. The water tastes good, it looks good, and so forth. And we're on the sanitary sewer system. So that's one point, is just for whatever it's worth. And the other is a question is the dollar cost that we've been provided, is that set?
That is our best estimate of what the project is going to cost at this point.
Okay. Something unexpected that turns up could change it one way or the other.
That is correct. However, relative to assessments, as a general statement overall, we do work with water utility to determine what their assessment rates are going to be, and when we set the assessment rates for the year, those assessments are set. So in this instance, it's a water charge. If we were talking about the Gray Street, it's actually a charge for the pavement, okay? If perchance something unfortunate happened and the cost of the project escalated, we cannot turn around and bill more than what we've told you the assessment rate for the year would be. However, on the flip side, if the project came in substantially under, to the point that the collection of assessments would result in more than what the project cost, state statute obligates us to come back and reduce the assessments to no more than what the project costs are. So residents who do pay special assessments are protected against cost increases, and they realize the benefit if the costs come in lower than anticipated. But more often than not, and I will say almost 100% of the time, in my 12 years here, the assessments only cover a fraction of what the true costs are. There are costs above and beyond that that are borne either by the Department of Public Works as the city or through the Green Bay Water Utility.
Okay. And a question that maybe I should have thought of upstairs earlier in the PIM, but from the right-of-way, the water line that if we're forced to hook up, that cost is ours from the right-of-way to the connection point to the building.
Correct.
And that's not in this number.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, sir? Did you, anyone else? Okay.
No, you took care.
Oh, okay, any other comments for the committee? Any other comments?
Just a quick, what are the timelines for both of these projects? Like 4 months, 5 months?
We are anticipating bidding them out as soon as we can. The hope is to be constructing them this summer.
Once it starts though, like say it starts in March, do you hope to have it done in 4 months, or is it gonna be one of those like Mather Street where it went for almost to December when they did that section?
Given the complexity of this project as opposed to Mather, I would not expect it to be that long, no. I would say probably in the 3
Yeah.
3 to 4 month
Yeah,
range.
maybe up to 5 months, there's some sensible work on gray, if you're talking gray. I think,
Gray will go a lot longer.
gray, yeah, might be more in the range of 6 months, Hillcrest is probably talking, yeah.
Oh, it's gonna go longer than that?
Gray will probably be about a 6-month project.
Wow.
Oh, they don't.
We're taking all the pavement out, so from back of curb to back of curb. Everything comes out, and then we'll do the improvements to the water system, the sanitary and the storm sewer. And then once that's done, then we have to come back in and repave it, so it does take a long time.
Okay. Yeah, one last time, any more comments for the committee? Okay, if I could get a motion to adjourn.
Motion to close this one.
Ask
Oh,
3 times.
I did, but then I'll do it again. Any other comments for the committee? Any comments for the committee? One last time, any comments for the committee? Public hearing, no problem, Director. So would it be appropriate to close the floor and then?
Well, with the hearing, you don't really open the floor, you just declare the hearing complete.
Okay, so public hearing is complete. No, Director Grenier, do we deliberate here?
Now
I
you
know
can
it's-
deliberate.
There's no
and make a decision.
necessarily, is there an action item that could
There
come
would
from
be an
this
action
agenda?
item.
Okay.
And the action item, should you so desire to do so, would be to order the improvements constructed and levy assessments as necessary.
Okay. Any comments, questions from the committee?
Well, I know, Jesse, you've been looking at this for quite some time, and I've been privy to a few of the meetings, but I will defer a little bit to you as far as how you feel on this. You know, there, especially with the wells and sewer service area, that type of thing, there's a couple of things, rural area, there's a couple different factors going on here. So I'll be interested in what you have to say on that.
Well, as we know, the road needs to be done. It was presented 2 years ago, and this committee, as well as the full city council, we delayed the project a year, held it. The wheel tax was passed, so the special assessments for the road was eliminated, but the folks, some folks, not all here, but some have the assessments for the water utility. Kristen from the Water Utility Department has been in contact with several of them. They've received a letter. There are options of payment plans. So obviously my opinion is that people should not have to connect to municipal water if they don't want it, but I understand that there are ordinances and rules and cities and policies and guidelines to guide this. And so I would ask the constituents to continue to work with the water utility, and I will continue to accept public comment because we still have to vote at this on the full city council. So my feeling is the road needs to be done, obviously. It's unfortunate that the costs of the assessments are so high for a lot of folks, and that I'm really having a hard time with, as with anyone. So I don't want people to be in a financial hardship because of it. So Kristen and Public Works have been very good through the years of working on payment plans and working through these issues with people. So, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
If I may, sir, I definitely don't want to increase your workload on you. But if you do take a look at the assessment ordinance, there is a provision in there that talks about deferral due to indigency. So you may want to explore that to see if that may apply to anybody out here.
Sure.
And obviously, you're
Yeah.
going to be holding those conversations
Yeah,
directly with
exactly.
their decisions.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to lump a bunch of work on your shoulders.
No, I appreciate that. Well, you've always been great in accepting those calls and whatnot, so. Alder Weary, any comments?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. How many homes are affected with switching over from well to city water? Or?
Total number of services that,
9 for assessments, but 7 that have to deal with getting off a well.
So if water is brought there, do they have to switch off, or is it just, here's city water, you can switch over if you want, or stay on the well?
again, I'm going to defer to water utility.
They have 120 days after the water is available to switch onto the municipal.
Okay, so that's a requirement.
It's a statutory.
Have we heard back from anyone else? You know, in your office or email,
To the
call?
best of my knowledge, nobody in our office has received any comments at all relative to either of these projects.
We had a few that weren't able to attend, and I think they had some water questions that were deferred to you guys in the water utility.
Everyone that I've spoken to is here with the exception of Ryan Dempsey, who I spoke with like 3 times today to get all of his questions. He had indicated he would come. I don't see him. Otherwise, I've talked to him at some point.
Okay, thanks. Did they have any opinion of, was anybody firmly against it, or definitely we want the water? You talked to them, but did they give you an opinion either way?
Well, no one wants to pay for a water assessment, but he understood the project. He has a special scenario because he has 2 parcels. One fronts Hillcrest and one fronts Royal Crown.
Did anyone say yes? I am firmly in favor of this. Give me that city water. I like to know as much as possible. It's like, okay. Do we know how long, and I don't know, whoever, do we know how long the wells are good for? I mean, if we put in this new road, would it last 20, 30, 40 years? Would the
I
wells
have no
last that
idea.
long? I mean, I don't know if we can predict that, or?
No, that's pretty impossible to predict, like how long a well, you know, several things could happen to a well. The well itself could fail, you could have pump problems. The worst would probably be water quality.
That's what I meant,
No,
sorry.
water quality,
That's what
so
I meant.
that's really the unknown. As you know, it's well documented around the area, wells, once they go, no coming back. You know, you have Door County, you have other wells with PFAS, you name it, there's other things that can contaminate groundwater, and you have no control over that.
Because you
In
can look-
general, wells last quite a while. The pumps may need to be replaced. Mine pump is 21 years old and it's the original pump. But pumps are not a major expense.
And I should have clarified, I meant
there's
more
a-
the water quality, yeah. That was.
If you have a number of houses where there's a well and a septic and a well and a septic and a well and a septic, that's where, depending on the strata, depending on soils and mineral, you can develop contamination in wells that way. Or if there's livestock or some other, but otherwise, wells are, they're good water. If they're a well put in, no pun intended, a well put in a well.
Thank you.
Well, most of them are
The-
sealed
the-
under rock, you know.
The only caveat that I would offer to that, one of the things that's gaining a lot of exposure worldwide right now is what they refer to as these PFAS chemicals. And to put it in terms we can get our hands around, PFAS they're a group of hydrocarbons that have been used historically for Teflon is one. So those types of applications, Gore-Tex, that which makes the Gore-Tex water repellent are the PFAS chemicals. Firefighting foams contain PFAS chemicals. Up until 9 months ago, nobody cared about PFAS. Now all of a sudden it's a major contaminant concern worldwide, and they found that global distribution of it, it's everywhere, and there's a huge rush to treat and get PFAS out of drinking water across the world. Back in the 90s, we weren't looking for boron. Nobody cared about boron. Suddenly the DNR came out with a regulation and boron had a number to it. We don't know what that next PFAS is going to be, and God help us that, you know, a year from now, 2 years, 3 years from now, DNR comes out and says, compound X is now a human health concern, and that's been in this water out here since the glaciers left the water there. And suddenly that water is deemed not good by the DNR due to a change in regulation that we have no control over. That would mandate these folks get off their wells, and we would have to run out there and extend water. So, yes, I agree. Generally, wells do last a long time. However, it's not unprecedented. It's happened a lot recently where all of a sudden DNR comes out with a new reg, and now we've got to meet that and those kind of things, which, these folks have been drinking water out of those wells forever, and it's not harmed anybody, but the DNR says it's a contaminant, and you got to deal with it. So there's those unknowns again, that's why Brian's saying it's almost impossible to predict the life of it.
And you gotta look at all the big farms around.
Yeah.
Those farmers don't get their water from Lake Michigan for their cows neither, that all comes from wells. So that's all regulated, pretty much there.
We're getting a little out of order. We had closed the floor. We could always reopen it, but if I could
Thank
allow all
thank you,
members-
Mr. Chairman. Does this project, now Haven doesn't have city water, right? That's all wells,
Haven was a resurface.
but they have wells, right? So
I have wells.
so if they would ever want city water, it would have to go through Hillcrest or come up through, I don't know, whatever subdivision that is with Crusade Lane and Gothic. I assume that's all city water.
It's
But
city
this
water,
project doesn't
yes.
prevent someone else from getting it, other than maybe Haven,
That would be correct.
and then up to the city limit? Okay.
So what was the number of homes that had wells versus those that don't in that area? The
Well, I
project
think
area?
there's-
I'm talking,
Oh, okay.
yeah, you gotta, sorry.
To the, he's speaking to the water
To
utility.
water utility.
Okay.
9 properties have the water main that would be running past them and being assessed. Of those, 2 already are connected to the side streets. So then there's just 7 remaining that are currently on wells that would be switching over.
Well, I know folks that have wells in other areas of the city, state, I should say, and it's a bit of a roll of the dice. Like you said, I appreciate the comment you made about, we have no issue, no problems in that, but as time goes on, it's could be a problem. You might not have a problem, but there always is that problem, so I would tend to lean more toward connecting, so.
Cities could have problems too.
Yeah, oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'm still kind of digesting this. I would really like to know, I wish all the residents were here and you could ask them, you want to roll the dice for 20, 30 years and rely on your well, or if things go wrong, there goes your beautiful new road because it's going to have to be dug up. And then we look like real geniuses, right? Or 30, 40 years go by and everything's fine. And you look like, hey, saved some people some money and didn't have to put the water in. So far, we've heard one person pretty adamantly against it, and the other ones sound like, I don't know if they knew there was another option, that they didn't have to accept it, or, they didn't sound pleased about it. I don't know, Alderman Burnett, if you can put any light on that, of how the other ones feel, but I'm still kind of stymied on this decision. I don't want to be someone who decides to put it in and force people to take it, or go the other way and have someone wrong with water.
Do you want to open the floor again?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to open the floor.
Second.
Motion by Alder Weary, second by Alder Sawyer to open the floor here from interested parties. Obviously, it's a big issue for a lot of you folks, so we're happy to hear from you again. Mr. Dietrich, do you want to address the committee?
The only other thing you could do is resurface from West Point, Haven Place, and reconstruct the rest of the road, which is really in bad shape. From West Point to Haven, that road is in as bad a shape as the rest of it. There's really no wetlands there.
That is not an option. That's not an option. The base underneath the road has failed. Resurfacing will not work out there, the road will fail. It needs to be reconstructed.
Okay, Mr. Braun.
I guess I realize, I don't really need it, but I think fire protection, I can't argue that's gonna be improved. And it sounds like King of Arms needs that loop around, so it sounds like the rest of the water system will benefit. And I agree with you as far as my pump has failed once, and I pulled it myself and put a new one down, even though my well's like 400 feet. I get it tested, it's good water, and the water level has come up since Ashwaubenon and the surrounding communities, have gotten their water from Manitowoc. because there was a time when my pump wasn't in the water, and I had to put a new one and lower it further, so I agree with that, and I think, sometimes we gotta benefit our neighbors with fire protection and maybe better water quality with the loop, but it is expensive, If it was half the cost, it would be really easy, so that, I can see your dilemma. I'm not for or against. If you vote for it, I'm okay. If you vote against it, it's a tough call, because like tomorrow, I could go home tonight, my pump could be bad, or the well could go bad, so.
I wish there wasn't any interest on the assessment. That would be nice.
For the community, it might be better, but cost is high. That's the way things are.
We probably have to be assessed.
Any other comments anyone else would like to address the committee? With that,
Close the floor.
Second. Motion by Weary, second by Stoyer to close the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Mr. Weary?
Thanks. I was gonna ask the water staff again, whoever wants to handle it. Is there any truth that connecting it around like that in a loop, does that help? Is that part of the goal, or doesn't it?
Sure, anytime you hook up two dead ends, it's gonna help improve the system. There's good water quality, it makes it better, it makes fire protection better, and increases pressure a little bit. So it does have some system improvements.
All right, thanks. I don't want to grasp for straws, sounds like it helps, but.
Yeah, but it's not the driving force of water.
Yeah, right,
water
okay.
going in, but it does help.
Alder Stoyer?
Thank you, Chair. Steve, did we talk, each of the homes are a little bit bigger in terms of frontage and such. Was there a price that was put on for each of these homes? As far as what this assessment will be with this project? I don't know if that was brought forward.
Is there an assessment roll by property?
Well, you're gonna be working on that, but I just want to kind of
No,
get a general.
there's actually an assessment roll that's been run per property.
So I'm just
Absolutely.
trying to get a handle on what each home will be paying. And I don't know if we're
That I
can be
would have
privy
to
to
defer
that.
to-
Mine's 26,000.
Okay. If I could just get a general feel for that,
And-
what that might be.
Kristen, do you
As,
have this?
as the residents, you've heard a couple of times tonight, the size of the lots, that's a function of the zoning and the district, the zoning district it falls into. We have the urban area, you have the urban expansion, and then you have the urban reserve. And with the zoning ordinance that's administered by Community and Economic Services, with the urban expansion and the urban, especially in the urban reserve districts, to stop urban sprawl while you're still in urban reserve and urban expansion, there are minimum lot sizes. So you don't want to be out on Hillcrest, for instance, and have it in quarter-acre lots, and then have this big gap of large empty land, and then get into urban again. So that's why the zoning ordinances are set up that way. And in this case, by and large, I think a lot of the folks live out there where they do because that's the
lots.
lifestyle they want,
Right.
that big
I understand.
open lot. But in this case, when assessments come around, that's one of the few times where having that big lot is not a good thing because the assessments are calculated on a frontage basis.
I was just looking for a general top to bottom as far as what the most
Do
expensive
you
would
have
be.
a range, Kristen?
Yep.
Just
that's
a
it.
range.
So the lowest assessment is 7,500 and the highest is 26,000.
26,000. Okay.
Mr. Braun is the winner here.
And the 7,500 is for our lot that already has city water, but they have to go through to connect to the main on Renaissance. So we're the least among the.
Do you want some of ours?
Alder Stoyer?
Well, I was just trying to reason through this too. It's a hard one because it's, you got the rural area, you got different zoning, you've got road that needs improving or redoing. I'm looking at the long-term issue here. It might, if we kept going like this for the next 4 or 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, it might work, it might not work, but that's a roll of the dice. So it's difficult. I had to repay for my road some years ago, and Yeah, it is what it is, so I have a tendency to lean toward approval of the project. So, I mean, as far as if we need to vote that way.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Alderman Strayer. I just wanted to address a lot of people were talking about the drainage, and tonight we're really just talking about the water, so it'd really be off topic for me, but we're putting a lot of trust and faith in your department, and I know you talk to a lot from us, and I'm sure you'll do a fine job. If you don't, you're gonna be hearing from a lot of people, right?
Well, and again, this is one of the projects that we did let out for consultant design, so
Yep.
staff has taken those comments in, we're gonna be sitting down with those consultants and going through this.
And I trust you will, but that's why maybe we're not addressing that tonight, it's
Right.
we're talking about the water, so it's not, we're not ignoring it. Fine.
Do we need a motion here?
Why, anybody running for office, this is why you get the big bucks, right? Unless I hear, this goes to council, right, next week, so.
It will go to
Yeah.
council.
So things can change between now and city council next week, but I think it'd be poor planning on our part not to put it in. If something happens a year from now, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now, we have to dig up this brand-new street, they'll say you had a chance when you did the street not to put it in and extend it and get the better fire protection. Believe me, I'd rather find a way not to, but I think if you're doing this and planning, you should do it right away, so
Well, let's do the relatively easier one now first. The first one, the Gray Street. Can I get a motion on the concrete pavement, Gray Street, Mathard
I would
Street
make a
development?
motion.
Motion to
Second.
approve, second by Weary. All those in favor of Gray Street, concrete pavement? Say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now, water main and/or water services, motion by,
I'll move to approve.
Motion by-
Hesitantly, reluctantly, but.
Sure.
I will second that.
a motion made by Weary, second by Stoyer, open for discussion.
I would say look into that indigency deferral.
Yes, yeah.
Look into, do we have to make a motion now about the empty lot if we defer that? Yeah, I
It's
guess
all or
there's two
nothing.
lots. Do we have to? Are there
When we levy assessments, it's an all-in.
Okay, not even if they own two lots and one was
Yep.
empty?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion? Obviously, I represent the area, so I'll say that today I'll vote in the affirmative. The road needs to be done. Now, in between now and the full city council, there's a whole week, less than a week. I think we meet at Tuesday, right next door here, same room, same building, right next door, room 207 at 6 o'clock. So the full city council will be voting on this issue next Tuesday, the 4th. And so between now and then, anyone here, contact myself. I'd be happy to hear your thoughts, and of course, any decision we make tonight can be overridden by the city council, and I may change my mind based on this, or at the very minimum, I'll try my best to alleviate some of the concerns. So with those comments, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, folks. For those who live within my boundaries districts, feel free to call me and contact me. Okay? Okay,
Go back to number 5.
we are returning to the agenda items. Item 5, consideration with possible action on the Department of Public Works Capital Improvement Program for 2020.
And I'm going to give you a supplement to what's in your packet already. Historically, we just told you about the resurfacing program. This year, we're actually giving you the streets that are in the resurfacing program for 2020. So we are trying to do a better job of communicating and getting you guys the information you need.
Looks good. Perfect.
So, like we've done it, we're going to do part of this like we've done in the past, and part of it is going to be different than what we've done in the past. And the difference is we do not have the financial statement on the last, that you've historically got on the last page. So we have not figured out what the bond request that would be necessary from this is. Part of that is because we are still we're coming to you with the capital program earlier in a very real attempt to get you guys information early in the year to make good decisions. However, that puts us into a spot where the financials have not gone through audit yet. So we're working off of tentative numbers, and getting some of the data we needed has been a little bit of a challenge out of the financial software. I am hoping to try to get the financials done prior to council, but I can't guarantee that, so I just want to be upfront with that.
I printed this up. I mean, this is what you're looking at, right?
Right, but normally the last page of it would be the financial analysis and what we're asking for in a bond request, and we do not have that completed yet. I'm still working on it. So we can go through all the projects and what the cost of the individual projects is, but we haven't determined what the bond.
So if you don't have this by council, we're just gonna, what are we gonna do?
Well,
then?
what I'm looking for is the approval of the program,
The
then
program
we'll come to
itself.
you with the financials
At a
at a
later
different meeting. Correct.
All right.
Will that tie in then, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, with
No, I'm sorry.
the wheel tax, you know, how it's broken
Yes.
down? Will that come with the
Correct.
financials?
With the financials,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So ideally, they'd all be together.
Yes. So, going to the page 1 of 7, new subdivisions. All the subdivisions that you see with the exception of Largo Ridge, Phase 2, are carryover projects from last year. As is the case with those types of projects, you will see that for pavement and sanitary sewer, there is no cost to the city. This is all extension cost. Again, we have always talked about the but-for test, and but for that subdivision, there's no reason for these utilities to go in. So the full cost of the utilities and the road is borne by the subdivision developer. Again, Largo Ridge is a new one. That is an extension that the bunkers are extending out there, and we've actually initiated discussions. Largo Ridge, this Phase 2 extension, comes out and it kind of dead ends about 650 feet out, up against some farm field that's owned by the Baston family. And if you've been part of this committee for a while, the Bastons were one of the families that had some pretty large assessments for pavement when we did Humboldt Road. This has fostered some discussion between Bunkers and Bastons about potentially doing some additional development in the Baston property and getting some additional home lots for sale out there. So we are getting developers talking to each other to try to maximize some of these projects.
They have a small body of water on their property, don't they? Baston's, is that off of Humboldt?
Not on this property.
Not on that one? Okay.
No. So again, what we're looking at is Bradley Estates, Sitka Heights, possibly an extension, or starting in on Grandview Place. Excalibur, that's finishing that one off, right?
Fourth edition, yeah.
Okay. And then Largo Ridge. Then we go into our local streets. So we're talking about Howard Street between Ashland and Chestnut. Part of the driving force for that is actually the storm sewer upgrades. So that's all part of that Basin 106 lift station project. We do have to replace some pretty significant storm sewer out there, and water utility has some aging infrastructure that they need to replace. Those two utility projects are going to result in pretty much the bulk of the street being destroyed, so it's a good time to go in and reconstruct that. We are looking at doing some design work on Country Club. Country Club is, I believe that's your district, Alder Burnett. That was a project that was done in the, I believe, the 80s. And it's a concrete street, and it, without getting all engineer on you, the technology that was used at the time was cutting edge. It proved itself not to be very good, and it's not used any longer. However, we're left with a street that's deteriorating well before its time because of the technology. So we are planning on going ahead and reconstructing that. The additional benefit on Country Club is with the adoption, when the Common Council adopted the bike ped plan, that's also going to extend bike ped accommodations through that area, and is intended to tie in with a joint project we are working on between ourselves and the Oneida Nation to provide bike ped access, not only up Country Club, but also into and serving NWTC. So NWTC is also working with us on that. Again, Hillcrest is a project we just had a public hearing on. Doty Street was originally part of a resurfacing in 2018, and that was pulled out. That it has been rescoped after we got comment at the public hearing that night, and it's actually a full reconstruct. Again, that one's being driven by lead service replacement. There's over 60 or so lead service. What? 63 lead services along that stretch. This is a pretty aggressive, that's all, right in the neighborhood of a mile in length. We typically don't do a reconstruct that long, but because of the lead service issue and, water utility has made that commitment to have all the lead services replaced by the end of 2020.
This is not something that the citizens say, no, we can't, we don't want that, it has to go forward because of the lead? Is that part of it?
Yeah, with the lead, and again, the reason Hillcrest was being assessed for water is because water does not exist there at this point. With water, sanitary, and storm, you only pay the assessments on initial installation. Any replacement or rehabilitation that's necessary in the future is covered by the utility, so there are no assessments. The problem we had out here on Doty was, again, it was the assessments that were part of the resurfacing or reconstruct program, and now that we have the vehicle registration fee, those residential assessments are gone. So there's no need for a public hearing, but if you remember at the public hearing we had, that was the big concern, was folks didn't want to pay the assessments. Edgewood and Harvest are kind of lumped together. There are two streets that come up and sort of dead end, and this is the horseshoe that loops those two streets together. There's about 7 or so platted lots that cannot be sold or serviced because the road is not in, so we're simply finishing that. This is something that probably should have been finished off around 2008, but that's when the housing bust went in and there was no demand for the lots. So again, moving forward, a lot of that, because it's new road, there is assessments that will be levied as part of that. Going to page 3, we now get into our NHS and STP routes. Again, NHS is things that are on the National Highway System. STP is part of the Surface Transportation Program. So these are, generally speaking, collector and above streets. What we have is Gray Street, finishing off paying for the design on that. Again, we hired a consultant for that. And then starting the construction on the northern segment. Because of the length of that project and the fact that it's a concrete street as opposed to asphalt, it was very difficult for us to bond for the entire thing in 1 year. So we looked at potentially doing all of the underground 1 year and doing all the pavement the other year, but that would have had all people on the road inconvenienced for 2 years. We try not to do that as much as possible. So sitting down talking to staff, we decided it was better to split the street north-south and do all of the work on a segment and then reopen it, and then all the work on the southern segment and reopen it, so people in that individual segment would only be inconvenienced for 1 year at a time.
When was the last time, that road was done in the 50s, correct?
I believe so.
52? Yeah, so it's...
Give or take. Moving down to page 4, we get into the West Mason Street traffic signal replacement and LED signal lamp replacement. Those are the projects that we brought to you last year that we are in participation is being done with DOT, so most of the DOT funding on that, but we do have a cost component for us. We had money in there for traffic signal repairs, but given the fact that we had to put so much into the two DOT projects, it's kind of hard to walk away when DOT's putting that much of the money in, so we're delaying those two traffic signal repairs, Mason Street at Abrams and Dousman Ashland, to 2021. We do have some money in there for what you see is, it's called citywide survey monuments. I have talked in the past about the datum that we use, the vertical elevations we use for designing and maintaining records here in the city. The city's datum, there are many different agencies that hold vertical datum. There is IGLD, there is NAD, which is run through National Geodetic Survey, NGS. There's not good correlation between the city's datum and NAD. And normally, it doesn't matter what that number is if you've got a conversion factor and the two data are coplanar, they're parallel with each other. There is a slight vertical skew in the city's datum, and the further away you go from the 0 point, the bigger that bust gets. Now, at its maximum, we're probably talking in the neighborhood of 1/10 of a foot, maybe 2/10. So a couple of inches, okay? Doesn't seem like a whole lot until you're designing sewers that flow at 0.1% or less. Their inches matter, and what we're finding is we sometimes get into the design and we're working off of the numbers we have on our record documents, and when we go out into the field to actually build, that's not jiving. There's a bust. And we wind up with sewers that lie dead flat. Sometimes we've actually had stuff that flowed backwards and we had to try to scramble in the field to try to make the correction. And this goes back to the origin of the city datum that goes back easily 60 years, maybe more.
So,
You have a question?
no, I was gonna
That's
ask
called
about that.
BZ.
Huh?
BZ, before Zim. That's how we refer to it.
I thought before Zimmo was glaciers.
That's right.
He's been around a long time.
Sorry, I cut you off there.
I
So,
can't follow that.
What we're looking at doing is setting up on major corridors. So your Mason Street, your Belt, your Military, and on the west side, it's hard to describe because we don't have a whole lot that go north-south, city limit to city limit. So we may break them up and do, part of it on Ashland, part of it on something else, Oneida, But the intent is to make major corridors and engage with a local survey company to put high accuracy vertical datum in that's permanent. It'll be encased in concrete, doesn't go anywhere, not susceptible to frost. That's the first step, is to create that backbone. And the intent is never to be more than 1/4 of a mile or so off of one of those high accuracy points. Then as we do projects, we do reconstructs, we do resurfacings, whatever, the surveyors will tie into that high accuracy monument and translate local datum off onto side streets, and will grow the network over time. The second phase of the project is something we're going to be proposing next year, and that is to engage a survey company to go out and shoot every manhole that's in the city. So there's over 14,000 sanitary and storm manholes scattered across 46 square miles of city. Somebody's going to have to go out there and shoot all of that stuff and get us high accuracy data of where it is today, so we can take that, revise all of our sheets, and make sure we've got good data to design from in the future. We're talking about some serious expense. Just to build this backbone, we're talking about $500,000. So we're proposing to split that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 of it coming out of the levy-supported borrowing, 1/3 from the sanitary, and 1/3 from the storm. So those numbers are reflected in the CIP.
I was gonna ask, how many monuments are we looking at for the city? You said 1/4 of a mile, that you wanted within a 1/4 mile radius, correct? Is that-
Well, what we're gonna do, again, we're gonna use major backbones. So along Mason Street, from the city limits to the city limits, every couple of blocks, there will be a monument the entire length of Mason
Okay.
Street.
So then you'll build off of that?
Right, and then over time, we'll expand. This is only intended to get that backbone in along the major corridors.
So in the past, when, you said it hasn't been done for 60 years, but when there were projects done without this system in place, how do you, you knew about this, right? This is something that, it's out there.
Yeah.
So was there any pressing need, some years back to say, we gotta get this done?
It has been discussed on and off since before I got here. We were talking about it in 2007 when I got here, but it's never risen to the level of urgency.
Okay, well, I don't know, just some of the things you brought up sound like there might be some urgency there.
We're starting to see it.
Okay, well, I think it's important.
Part of it, to be real honest with you, part of it was because we had staff who had been here for 30 years. They knew about it and they knew how to do the reconciliation. And as we've had that staff turnover, that institutional knowledge has been lost, and folks are just taking stuff as gospel.
But the reconciliation was good enough to get by?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know, what are the commercials that are out there now that good enough isn't good enough.
Yeah.
Have you seen those? Okay.
Yeah, there's
The doctor that comes in.
Oh, yeah, I
Are
like
you
that.
nervous?
Just
Yeah.
as a quick.
Oh, all right, we'll figure it out.
When I started with the city in 1990, I remember discussions in engineering division about, the circuits of these, and they were getting pretty good closure on their survey loops. So in the individual project areas, I don't recall any big concern, but yeah, in the last 10 to 20 years, there's, projects and items only last so long. The only constant thing in the universe is change. So
And what
things
we
shift
had
and
was,
move.
you'd have a loop here, and then a couple of blocks away, there'd be a loop here. And then you'd have a project in between it, and when you try to tie the two loops together because of the skew, there was a bust. So you would sit there and try to figure that out and reconcile it, and, okay, well, we'll take this one, lift it a little bit, we'll take this one, drop it a little bit.
That's time too.
Yeah. And 20 years ago, that worked.
Okay. Well, I think it's important. So,
Okay, then we get into bridge repairs. So general bridge maintenance citywide, $30,000. We've got design of the steel for the East River Ped Bridge, that's over by East High School. Bridge design for West Mason over Beaver Dam Creek. Nice little project for us because DOT is picking a lot of that cost up because it's on a state trunk highway. Main Street Bridge at the Fox River. Okay, that's our Ray Nitschke Memorial Bridge. The hydraulic system in there, we cross our fingers daily when we push the button to make sure that that thing goes up. It's simply that the motors and the pumps in there have served their useful life. The bridge is designed to last 75 years, but not necessarily the hydraulics that drive it, which is why not a lot of hydraulic bridges are in operation today. Most of them are electric. Unfortunately, we inherited one that is a hydraulic design, so we're at a point that we really need to get in there and do some replacements.
so that's about a 20-year shelf life, you were saying? I mean, that was built in what, 97?
98 it was open. Mason Street over the East River, there's an overlay there that we're gonna do, so if you saw the project we did on Atkinson Drive over the railroad within the last 2 years,
Yeah.
similar project on East Mason Street over the East River. We are in a biennium, so we are coming up on our required biannual bridge inspections. We are also looking at some design for the Chantel Street Bridge over Beaver Dam Creek. And we got a 0 in there for Taylor Street. Yep.
Hey, Ray.
Okay, I'm looking at Jim. He punched numbers in. I'm throwing my,
Taylor Street is another DOT design.
but we do
That's
have
zero.
we do have some costs.
Minor cost, it's
Minor.
like 15 grand.
Okay, so yeah, figure about 15,000 as a city cost on that Taylor Street Bridge, not a
So
0.
it should be not 0.
Right. Asphalt resurfacing, local streets, again, we gave you the handout with the streets that are in the program for this year. Pavement repairs for the resurfacing program, that's things like curb and gutter that's broken, or sidewalk curb ramps that need to be addressed that are non-compliant with ADA, things of that nature. Again, that's a normal cost, that's in every year. We also have about $60,000 that we have as a set aside for patches that are, the street doesn't necessarily need to be resurfaced yet, but it's not something that our crews can go in and patch. So, for instance, last year when out of nowhere Belt Avenue just fell apart on us, and we had to go in there and do some emergency repairs, that's where that money comes from. We got this set aside for those type of things. Concrete repairs citywide is $550,000. We've got $40,000 in there for mud jacking. We try to be judicious in where we use that and where we don't, because it doesn't always work, but sometimes if we've got a situation like with a curb and gutter or a city responsibility sidewalk, something is settled and it's ponding water, we're able to get in there and mud jack it, bring it back up and get the water to flow before we have to tear it out and replace it. You know, curb and gutter is like $17 a foot or something like And then the sidewalk contract, that's the conventional sidewalk program. And at a recent meeting, we talked about expanding that program. Again, we'll start the inspections this year with implementation anticipated for '21, so that's not reflected in the cost this year. Going to page 5, then we start getting into more of the sewer and utility-related projects. So again, the basin televising, that's the first item on the list. We pick out basins across the city on our sanitary system, and sequentially we're working our way around. So we've got $500,000 in there to do basin televising again this year. The East Mason siphon elimination, there is kind of over in that same area, the same general area where that East Mason Street Bridge over the East River is, where the flooding occurred last year, there is what's called a siphon. And did we talk about that recently? Okay, so this is the construction to eliminate that siphon, which is a good thing. And then East Shore Lift Station. Sanitary station. So sanitary station upgrades that are necessary out on East Shore Drive with the sanitary lift station out there. So I'm sure Alderdorf would be in support of that. Right now, we've got a placeholder in there for $2.5 million coming out of the storm sewer fund for maintenance on the dike. We're still evaluating what is possible and what's not out there. But at least we're anticipating a minimum expenditure of $2.5 million. It's looking like some of the lesser cost alternatives that we were pursuing are not going to be possible based on how that dike was constructed. I don't think it's possible to get all of the dike work done this year because of the permitting requirements that are going to be out there. But I do think that this will put a good dent in getting us started, at least on the most critical areas.
And this cropped up because of the damage from last year, right? I mean,
And
it wasn't a whole
actually,
lot of time.
when we did the inspection in May, everything was fine. When we went back out and re-inspected after the December 1 storm, it was damaged. So it literally, that December storm was really a killer. That one did a significant amount of damage. Howard Street, again, that's the, that's the lift station. That's the one that we were talking about. What's that?
That'd be the lift station and then the storm sewer from Pearl to, I believe it's Ashland.
Yeah,
Chestnut.
South Chestnut.
Yep.
Okay. We're looking at doing some upsizing on Dan's and Farland. That goes back to the Preble study that we reference routinely here. Stormwater facility vegetation management, again, we've put several $1 million into building these stormwater ponds. We got to make sure that the vegetation around those ponds continues to function properly so the ponds work. Street sweeper dewatering basins. When the street sweepers are out, they wind up picking up grit and water based on how we do our sweeping. We have to pull that water off and send that to a wastewater treatment plant. And then we dispose of the sweepings themselves at a landfill. DNR has been gracious in allowing us to do the dewatering the way that we have been, but they gently chide us every now and then that you guys need to have a better system. So this is intended to create that better system to dewater those solids. Grandview, again, we're anticipating that, that Grandview project is going to go forward. But that would be a developer funded. Again, that's kind of that item that Alder Nicholson has to hold tonight, so we'll see how that goes. Basin 106, lift station replacement, that's the second, that's the one on Hubbard, or on Howard and Pearl.
Yep.
Up by the school district, that's been in the works for a while. The Museum Place storm lift station is the one on Hubbard that will address Antoinette. So that's about $250,000 there. We get into the annual projects, so sewer repairs citywide, that is things that just pop up. So for instance, last summer, we had a 24-inch diameter sanitary sewer in front of the Riverside Ballroom that just collapsed on us and caused backups. We were out there for about a week repairing that. That's where that came from. we've got money set aside for stuff that just fails during the course of the year. And yes, those numbers are about what we spend on an annual basis on stuff that we hadn't anticipated that just falls apart. Then we got the TV inspection of sewers 2019. So that is doing closed circuit television inspection of projects that we anticipate to build in 2021. So that inspection of sewers should probably be 2021, not 2019. Okay. Sewer rehabilitation for the resurfacing program, as the name implies, that's the sewer modifications that we're doing to ensure that we don't have to dig up our resurfacing streets before the resurfacing comes up. Mini storm citywide, it's about a $650,000 program. Root treatment citywide, we've got about $70,000 set aside because of street trees. Obviously, the street trees provide great benefit to the city, but one of the negatives is the roots do invade our sanitary sewers. So we use a company that goes in and chemically treats those roots to get them out of the sewers. And then chronic sewer repairs citywide. When we do the basin televising, so the very first item on the top of this list, that $500,000 expenditure, while we're doing the televising, we will find things that need to be corrected that are not part of a street project. So it's simply a sanitary sewer issue. That's what that $800,000 expenditure is. We're fixing things this year that we identified from basin televising last year.
That seems to be helpful, because I think when you go in and redo a street, you know, if you have that information ahead of time, then.
Right.
I think
Well,
that's
we do
very
both.
important.
So
Right.
we televise the streets that are part of the program, but we televise other basins that aren't going to be part of any program just for maintenance purposes to keep up on our, I always got to figure out, CMOM. The CMOM, the sanitary MS4 is the storm sewer. So previously, we were getting through our sanitary sewers on about an 11 or 12-year rotation. And with doing some of this basin televising, some of the other activities, buying some equipment, adding some staff in the sewer section, changing our MO on how we do things over there, we're down to about a 5-year rotation getting through all the sewers on the sanitary sewers. The hope is, obviously, we'd like to always do better on sanitary, but what we're doing is now we're going to try to bring our storm sewer program up on par with our sanitary. A little harder because the storm sewer's underwater, but you got to have a goal. Then we get into our TIF projects. So I take it back, not all of them. The Grandview East Side Interceptor, that's going to open up additional land for the expansion of the I-43 Industrial Park. In my opinion, and my opinion only, one of the primary reasons when TIDs were formed was to be able to fund infrastructure. That's what we're doing here. We're putting the infrastructure in, utilizing TID funding to help keep the costs down on site development, which I guess in a way provides an incentive, but it's going to help develop our business parks without direct financial incentive to businesses. So both of these are common. The Grandview Interceptor is the actual deep interceptor. Because we're coming by with an interceptor, there's a couple of houses out there that are on failing septic, so they're going to have to hook up and trying to keep things. Those houses are eventually targeted for redevelopment as the industrial park. So we're going to run the sewer out to those folks. They will have to pay their connection charges, but we're using the TID to help get that infrastructure in and help lessen the blow on some of these folks. Kellogg Street Extension, again, that's the rail yard program that's been going on since last year. This is to finish it off, so it's a carryover. Shipyard, we've been talking about, so what we've got in here is the Arndt Street and some of the Bridge Street reconstructs that are necessary. One of the ones that is new for this year is the Legends District sidewalk. Those of you who have to deal with Packer game day issues down there, you notice that there are always people walking in the street, and the interaction between the folks walking in the street and the cars trying to get in or out of the game, that's just a very, very dangerous situation. That TID has money in it, So we're utilizing that money to get those sidewalks in and get folks out of the road and make it safer for everybody. So that's our program that we're proposing for the year.
Any questions from the committee?
Yeah, I do. Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah. Do we know, thanks, thanks for the presentation. Resurfacing projects,
Yes, sir.
it's like 1.7 million and 18,466 feet, mentioned, right?
Yes.
What did we do last year? Are we doing more,
A little over
same?
16,000 linear feet.
16,000?
Yes.
So we are doing more?
We are.
You know I was gonna ask that.
Yes, we are ramping up. And the intent is to continue to ramp that up year by year.
And I know it's our first year with a full year of collections, right? So
Correct.
Do we have an idea of how much we collected with the
We have not received
the wheel tax? for those
January,
wells?
or I don't think we received the December final numbers from DMV, thank you. But based off of what we were receiving coming into the year and where we expect December to come out, it looks like about 1.7 is gonna be our number. And we do it, there's always fluctuations, the total number of cars, but at $20 a vehicle, give or take, I think 1.7 is gonna be a legit number to plan on going forward.
And what might that cover? The 1.7. I like to kind of equate it to things. So is there?
All the dollar amounts in the projects are in there.
They're all listed. Well, for what, this?
No, the capital improvement.
Oh, the
plan.
capital
You can
improvement
look
plan.
at, yeah,
All right.
I mean,
So, it's not gonna be limited to, just resurfacing streets, that'll also be used to
I guess that was
ramp up some
part
of
of
the
my question.
reconstruction as well.
That was part of my
Yeah.
question.
Yes,
Hopefully, next meeting, will we have that breakdown for the wheel tax? Here's what we're gonna collect.
Yes.
What we collected
Yeah, I
and
think
rolled
that's-
over.
that's-
yeah, that makes sense.
that's my hope, yes.
Are all these streets a 3?
Yes.
They are? Okay. I know I keep pestering you about Hickory Hill,
Yep.
but man, from 12th to Oneida, it's gotta be like a 3.9. I swear.
Can I ask what bond is?
Holy
Bond
moly.
is a 3,
Bond is a 3.
yes. And I'll be honest with you, Bond probably would rate lower, but westbound is in much worse shape than eastbound, and when you get the rating, it's for the street, for the width.
The whole length of the street?
No,
Or
it's
just
block
that?
by block.
Okay.
But I did look, from Military to Morley is concrete.
Yeah,
and
that's not too
actually
bad.
Pretty good shape.
To the tracks.
Right.
And after that,
And then after that, it turns to an asphalt street. And when I was talking about that contract patching, that $60,000,
Right.
you can see the patching in the eastbound lanes. Dave Grunwald and I did a lot of that. We poured tens of thousands of dollars into Bond Street in the mid-2000s, 2007, 2009, in that time period. And that's why those eastbound lanes look so much better than the westbound lanes. We did that contract patching.
well, you've been there, so you've seen.
Oh, absolutely,
You've seen it.
absolutely. So that message has been passed along to
Yes.
staff, that it qualifies, it's in the 3 range. So that is being tossed into the shuffle to see where it stacks up against other projects.
But that won't be this year.
No,
Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, I'm good.
All there?
I'm good.
I would actually, if I can make a motion to approve with 2 minor corrections. One would be to add $15,000 under bridge repairs, Taylor Street over Beaver Dam, and then correct the date, or the year of TV inspection from 2019 to 2021. Is that what you said, Director?
yes, sir.
Okay. There are a few minor corrections when we were
Yeah.
going through it that I caught. Well,
Few spellings too, but
we'll skip this.
You want me to go through those?
We'll skip the spelling.
We're engineers, Alderman, not English professors.
I can't help it, I was a good speller.
Can I get a second on that motion?
Sure, I
second.
heard add Hickory Hill and Bond, I second that. Is that what I heard? I think I
I'll
heard
disregard that,
Oh.
unless you're serious.
that. No, I'm not.
Second by
second.
Alder Stoyer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Item 6, consideration with possible action on the review and award of the contract Bridge 20 Main Street Bridge Center and tall lock adjustments.
And Bridge 120, we were not able to provide that in the packet because we just opened it yesterday.
Thank you.
4 bids received, low responsive, responsible bidder is Lunda Construction. Definitely a contractor we are familiar and comfortable with, and the bid came in under budget, so recommendation is to award to Lunda Construction in the amount of $77,600.
Motion to award to Lunda Construction, $77,600.
Motion made by Weary, seconded by
Second.
Stoyer. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
And
Motion
just a quick aside on that, we do anticipate that at least some of that money will be eligible for reimbursement under the state lift bridge program. Can't guarantee it, but we do expect that we're gonna get something back.
Item 7, consideration with possible action on applications for sidewalk builder licenses by the following: Brian McEwen Concrete, Green Bay Concrete, and IEI General Contractors.
All good, recommend approval.
Move to approve.
Motion by Weary to approve, second by Stoyer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 8, consideration with possible action on applications for tree and brush trimmer licensing by the following: Aspen Tree Expert, Conscientiously Fresh Tree Service, which are that, Economy Tree Service, Holder Brothers, Monster Tree Service of Northeast Wisconsin, and Urban Tree Service.
All the bell licenses in the past all do a good job, we recommend approval.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Alder Weary, second by Alderman Stoyer. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. Item 9, consideration with possible action on application for underground sprinkler system license by the Sprinkler Company.
Again, has held license in the past, does good work, we recommend approval.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by
Second.
Weary, second by Stoyer. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. Item 1, under informational director's report on recent activities of the Public Works Department.
Only have 2 things to share with you tonight, first of which is Christmas trees and brush. I'm sure you guys have been getting as many calls as I have. We have completed our first round through the city, so Christmas trees should be picked up. We completed West Side last week, and we just completed the East Side today. If there are people out there who still have something, we do request that if folks can use the request for service tab on the city's website, that goes directly to the supervisor's desk. That's the quickest way to get action. But as always, if they want to call in and talk to somebody, we'll take those.
I just tell them to come down and knock on Chris's door.
Second one that we have, it's a little bittersweet for me to announce, but John Miller, Assistant City Engineer in Special Projects. John has tendered his retirement notice. He will be retiring on February 17th. At the end of the day, John has been with us for about 24 and a half years. John has handled some of the most complex, out-of-the-box type projects that we've had in the last several years. He took over as the Assistant City Engineer when Ray Kurth retired, and nothing has dropped off in that time. So John has been the lead on a variety of things. Ray did the upland portion of City Deck, but when we started doing the in-water stuff, that was John. I had the pleasure of working with John for the last 12 years, and some of the projects that he and I have worked on together have included taking the old Washington Commons Mall down, working with Schreiber Foods on their GTC and home office, cleaning up the 2 ends of Washington Street so that City Deck Landing and Metro could go in, building the Pippin, one of the best projects. That's a lifelong project I'm going to hold dear to my heart, because not every engineer gets to work on a roller coaster in their time. But John and I spent a lot of time out at the beach, and just more projects that I care to count out, and especially stuff that's really unique, not things you do every day. John's been fantastic at it. If anybody deserves a retirement, our well wishes, he's it. So we've lost some really, really good, strong people at DPW this year. We've had a good run where we have our normal turnover like everybody does. But fortunately, we've been able to hang on to some long-term guys over the past couple of years. We had a run a few years back after Ed Wiesner retired where we lost a lot of seasoned folks, a lot of, 30-plus year individuals, and that hurts the department. There's a lot of that institutional knowledge we rely on. But we've been doing a good job of picking John's brain over the last couple of years because we figured something like this might be on his horizon.
So
and
who's gonna take over the red shoes thing?
we're gonna have to find somebody whose knees and hips aren't shot.
I did it once, it's not good. Not a good thing.
Yeah, John had a tendency to take that one right to the nth degree. He was dressed in a dress and a fur coat, and former Mayor Schmidt didn't know who it was that came up to give him a hug. He was trying to figure out who that woman in the red hat was.
Sadly, I was there. That's
So that is my director's report.
Okay. Motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
Motion by Weir to receive and place on file, second by Stoyer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Just for the record, we wish him well in retirement.
Yes,
And,
by all
I
means.
saw the job posting, I was curious who it was, and definitely a big loss for the city, so
Yeah.
wish him well.
You still have a lot of oldsters on staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're it.
There's the institutional knowledge.
There it is, right there.
So next INS meeting, obviously, Chair Nicholson will determine, but it's tentatively set for February 12th.
public hearings on the 12th as well, I think.
Okay, so
Again.
likely February 12th. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second by Stoyer, second by Weary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Good job.